time for sports with Michelle Montague, who's joining us all the way from Florida. So she doesn't have to deal with this lovely old lockdown. Michelle, just how's everything going over there?
Yeah, good. Hey, man. Yeah, they do not care about COVID over here. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But New Zealand, I think their approach is pretty cool. But here, yeah, everything's open. Everyone's continuing as normal. And those people like me go around with like masks and stuff like that. But other than that, it's nice to be somewhere where something's happening.
What brought you over to Florida? Obviously, you had that the MMA Euros with the IMMAF last month, I believe. What made you go to Florida from there?
Well, I was supposed to fly home to New Zealand from Russia, but I couldn't get the emergency allocation. I was stressing because my visa's running out, and Russia's not the kind of place you can overstay. I think things would be very bad. So I had a call with the family, and we're just thinking, hey, what's a safe option somewhere where like you speak the language, maybe you can train, although it wasn't the priority. It was to be somewhere safe. And so we thought, well, I used to live in Florida. I've got a really good friend here who's got a spare room for me to stay in. So I pretty much messaged her that morning of my flight and was like, hey, can I come stay? And she was like, yep, absolutely. So that's how I ended up here.
Oh, that's pretty handy then. I know there's a lot of people who are worried about
lucky.
going overseas and getting stuck. So it's good that you didn't really find yourself in that situation.
Yeah, I did really think, honestly, that I was going to be going back home. I applied for it and had all the like evidence from like the union and things like that, like saying that I wasn't allowed to change my visa or stay any longer. But MIQ still said it wasn't good enough. I don't know what I think maybe, I don't know what they could have expected further than that, but I couldn't pull it through. So that was, the day of my flight home was when I got the email back from New Zealand saying no.
So timed it nicely then.
I would have minded a couple days sooner, at least a freaking day.
While you were in Russia, obviously the IMMAF Euros, how did you actually get allowed to compete in a Euros competition? I mean, New Zealand's not really part of Europe, is it?
Yeah, good question. So the IMMAF competitions are open championships, unless it's domestic national champs. So we have the Oceania Open Champs. So anyone can go to it, but it's the host nation will be in that continent. So they have throughout the year, on a normal year without COVID, they'll have the Oceania champs, the Pan American champs, European champs, and the African champs and Asian champs. And a country in each of those continents will host. And anybody can go there, but it's more for the people in that region to have a chance to compete before the world champs. And have a country that maybe wouldn't have hosted it before, like little old Kazan in Russia, hold such an amazing event.
You were fighting featherweight this time around. What was the decision between, I guess, going from lightweight to featherweight and committing to that?
Yeah, well, I'd actually wanted and entered in featherweight at the Oceanias last year in Gold Coast, but I was the only person to enter. I think maybe one other girl, if that, from Finland that went over. So I had to go lightweight because no one else entered it for our region. So coming to this one, I knew that weight group's a big weight group for Europeans. And so there would definitely be girls in it. And yeah, we had originally 11 women, and then I think a few of the Kazakhstan team got COVID, so we whittled down to 8 women by the time the tournament actually started. But lightweight, I walk around at lightweight, basically, maybe a couple kilos over. So that's not like a realistic weight for me to fight against girls that'll probably be my size. I mean, the girls at that weight are generally a bit bigger. And I knew also the girls at featherweight were probably going to be a lot more athletic, faster, more of a challenge for me because I'm not like the fastest person out there. So it was like a really good challenge in a lot of ways. And obviously making that weight for between 1 and 3 days in a row was another challenge that I was ready for as well. And yeah, that all went fine as well.
How'd things go over there? For those who haven't seen the results, you had a win and a loss, both by decision. Your loss was against the reigning world champ.
Yeah, one
How
good
was
week
that?
ago, and I lost
Oh
the decision.
yes, of
Yeah.
course, yeah. How was the experience fighting the reigning world champ?
Um, Pretty average, to be honest. Not her, just my experience, I guess. I mean, it was enjoyable to a certain extent, but the whole time fight was happening, it was, yeah, I fought the opposite stance. I injured my leg in the first fight. Just something real weird hit me in the ankle where I've had surgery, and it blew up. Big bruising, and I couldn't really walk on it or shoot off it, press off it. I had like a video chat with a like S&C coach and couple people like Carlo, and that morning of the fight, we were going to maybe pull out if I couldn't do a couple movements, and then we switched stance and like we're able to do something. We were in the hotel room like video calling just to like see what I could do. And so yeah, I went to weigh-ins that morning not knowing if I was going to be fighting, and I was trying real hard not to limp anywhere, but it was like super blown up. I went and had an x-ray and a ultrasound straight after that fight too. And it was all clear. So that's why I was like, mentally, I was like, well, if I can push through the pain, we'll just do it. And that's what Mark Craig said. He said, if you can just push through the pain, then, do it. So I was like, okay, sweet, we'll just stand this way. So immediately in the fight, I didn't feel super comfortable fighting that way around, and knowing that if I went back to Southpaw and I got one kick on that blown up joint, that like she'd be all over probably. So didn't like that to begin with, and then didn't do anything that we had wanted to do from the get-go, like at all the whole fight. I was enjoying like the fight all the way through on the feet, but like it was just I knew I was losing each round. Like nothing was really happening, no one was landing really anything except for a couple of kicks. So it wasn't like anyone was getting damaged at all, but also like I just wasn't scoring. So when it finished, I was like, yep, okay, I definitely lost that. I don't even need to have the announcer say it. But at least knowing that, okay, that was me on my worst day with no coach and an injured leg and not doing any of what I'm good at, then I'm thinking, okay, a rematch will be, pretty enticing.
How's everything feeling now?
Yeah, pretty good. I haven't seen a physio yet. Still trying to find the right sort of contacts over here for that sort of stuff. It's flared up a bit during this first week of training, so I'm trying to manage that and figure out like what it actually is. I think it's going to be all good. It'll definitely all be all good by Worlds, but it's just managing that before it gets worse.
And you're training over at ATT, right? American Top Team. Why American Top Team?
Well, I'm in Florida, and that's the best gym to go to in Florida, especially for women. And Eugene messaged Mike Brown and like helped set it up as well. So I knew it was all cool. I talked to Carlo and he was like, yep, like make that happen if you can. So I was like, had all the right people like helping me to link up with them. And when I went down there, they, they've been super accommodating, and the girls have like welcomed me into their trainings as well. The guys are super cool, and the coaches are just they just welcomed me with open arms, really, after I guess putting me through a little bit of a trial kind of thing. So yeah.
What did that involve?
What was it? It was kind of like it was a bit of like a conditioning thing between assault bike and assault treadmill and the ski erg and the heavy bag and a bag on the ground, and then a round of stand-up sparring. It was like light sparring, but a round of stand-up sparring with one of their pro girls, and then a round of wrestling with her sister, then a round of grappling with the first girl. So it was that was interesting, and I definitely like was pretty, I was like drenched in sweat as well. First hard session in like this kind of weather. But yeah, that was, I guess, to make sure like I could at least kind of keep up with what they have on there. But then it's obviously showing up, getting there, and just I guess being ready to do a whole camp as well was another thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a really, really intense sort of gauntlet to make sure you're at the right level to be in the gym.
I think it's what they do for their tryouts, like the actual tryouts that they do. So it's a good measure to compare across the board. And then Conan just basically highlighted some sessions across the professional schedule and the development program schedule like that there, so I can do the classes that he suggested across the two.
So you'll be doing a bit of everything over there: wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and stand-up.
Yeah, exactly. So like the first thing of the week is like an hour and a half wrestling session, like drilling and live. So like that's a good start to your week. And then each day you've got either grappling, wrestling, striking, or a mixture of 2 or 3 of them kind of thing. Monday through Friday, and then a session on Saturday as well. So it'll definitely get me ready.
Obviously, no one's looking forward to entering camp and getting into that weight cut sort of phase, especially if anyone's been watching your Instagram and seeing some of the big old sweets that have popped up on there. Don't worry, I'd do the exact same thing.
Yeah. I went to a sushi buffet last night and was there for 3 hours.
Oh, how good.
Anyway, it's another thing.
When you get to this point in camp, obviously you know that you were having fights pretty close between each other with Russia and Kazakhstan next month. Does that make things any easier at this point of starting to go into camp?
I'm kind of used to it now. I guess the 3 years that I've actively been fighting, and not out of injury, there's been 2 or 3 tournaments or sort of thing, or basically average of 3 fights a year. So you kind of get a little short rest and you're back going again anyway. I'll have a 9-week camp, so it's plenty of time. I mean, I don't sit that heavy, and I guess you're right. The thing with it is just being able to, like everybody, indulge a lot when you just finish a fight and then feel that ugly bloat, deal with it, and then move on with your life. And the first thing you start doing is firstly you kind of stop training, you stop eating healthy and all of that all at once, and then you start training again, but you're still eating like shit. And so it's a bit of a struggle, but at least it balances out a bit better. And then you continue training, you up the training, and then you're also eating healthier. So it's kind of that's kind of how the process goes. I see with every fighter, they'd probably say the same thing. You go through that little all or nothing phase at the start, and then you sort of teeter it back through as normal. And yeah, the thing with at least with the diet, I know I've got Geordie Sullivan to help with it, and I can be like, oh my gosh, I'm this weight or I'm this what, either this is the training I'm doing, and he'll tailor the plan for that. And when we were in Kazan, I had obviously no idea what food I was really buying, what food they'd be giving us, all that sort of thing. And so he just basically gave me a list, and I went down to the shop and found all these things and tell him my weight, and he'd tell me what to have. And it worked out perfectly. And each day of those 2 days, I was, underweight, by a smidgen. So it was perfect.
Yeah, he's pretty good at his job, old Geordie, isn't he?
Oh, he's worth it.
When you get over to Kazakhstan, what weight are you going to fight at? Are you sticking to featherweight, or are you going to defend your lightweight crown?
Definitely go to featherweight. I've seen some of the girls at lightweight, and yeah, they're taller, a bit thicker girls. I wouldn't say that they're super athletic. There's a couple that are, but the girls at featherweight are all animals. I feel I just saw the ones at European champs. There's a couple of us my height, and then there's some nuggety ones that are a bit shorter, like the world champ currently. So, and I obviously want that rematch, but you don't know what pool play you're going to get, whether you. I mean, I guess I'll have a bit of a seeding now from that tournament, but I went into that unseeded as all my points were at lightweight, hence why we ended up on the same side of the bracket. Potentially this time we don't, and you definitely meet in the final, not the semi, but the girl that came second would be an epic match. Also, she had skills across the board, and that was a good fight as well to watch. So I'm super excited for that competition, and you really got to take it one day at a time with them, make the weight, focus on that one fight. And if I'm there again without a coach, I really got to learn from my last tournament in Russia, and obviously do better than that mentally.
You were working a little bit with the Portuguese team, right?
Yeah, I wasn't working with them, but their team welcomes me in literally one of their own. I hadn't met any of them before, but Luis knows Matt Toa. And when Matt said him sorting out a coach or someone that he knows, I just said, just someone that you trust with my life, because I'm going to be trusting them with everything that they say. and this was the guy. So yeah, Luis Barneto from Portugal, and he had 6 boys there competing. I just did a couple of like weight cut sessions when they were training, and they were awesome to train with as well, like mostly my size, so that was perfect for me. And one of their boys stepped in and helped in the corner as well, chucked a Kiwi shirt on him, and he looked the part. Yeah, so it was really like a blessing to have someone like that felt like, you know, I was part of their family, and that I wasn't alone. I guess it's always hard when it's not your normal coach, because they know you the best. But it was the, you know, best alternate I could ask for.
Did you pick up any Portuguese along the way?
No, I didn't. You'd think I would, but I think I picked up more Russian on the way.
Yeah, fair enough. It makes sense given you're in Russia. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the IMMAF Worlds coming up, just can you speak a little bit about, you know, the pathway that, you know, this amateur competition gives to people looking to, I guess, make their way in the amateur game before going pro? I don't know if a lot of people really consider it as much, or maybe more are, but like yourself and maybe only a few others from New Zealand seem to be really sort of attacking this pathway. Yeah.
So it's a good question. Like, and the IMMAF team asks us that a lot too, like why it is so good. I think your growth in it can be, I wouldn't say fast track, because that depends how you train and how you grow yourself. But in terms of like experience in fights, you can have, if you don't do that good, you have 1 fight. If you do great, you have 3 or 4 in a whole tournament. So you can have that over the course of a week or 4 days against people from all around the world, not just old mate that you've had a kickboxing fight with, now you're fighting there, or this chick that you've done grappling with. It's like these are complete strangers from around the world, your weight, and you're fighting them day after day. So for me, I'm like, there's nothing else that would replicate that in MMA. So for amateur MMA, normally, you have a fight at like a fight night and stuff like that, and that's awesome. Like that's how I had my first 2 fights at the Princesses of Pain. But yeah, you have that 1 fight, and then you kind of wait around looking for the next one. It's just a bit harder fighting on shows, and for Kiwi girls and Aussie girls, it's a lot harder in terms of numbers. We just don't have them. So especially if you're in the heavier 1 or 2 weight groups, it's even harder to find someone that maybe that you haven't fought, that you don't train all the time, and that is still amateur, not had pro fights in some sort of area. That can be real tricky. There's just not enough of us, really. So if you want to fight overseas, then you're not going to go to probably a random amateur show on the other side of the world for 1 fight. But doing the IMMAF tournament, you can go over there and have 3 or 4 fights at the one tournament. And they run it, they run it so professional. It's kind of like on the level of like wrestling world champs is the scale of it. And that's a massive event. From the drug testing to the registrations, the weigh-ins, the medicals, even just the accreditation side of it, like everything is so by the book. And they just take care of all the athletes there as well. They know that everybody's there to fight and compete, and they just take care of them. So I think that's the best part of it, is the sheer number of fights you can possibly have and how controlled the environment is. And obviously the drug testing side of it is massive too, because, no one's trying to be going out there against some yoked up, like, roid rager on their, like, second amateur fight. Yeah, so I think that's massive. Kiwis should get into it more. It is hard now with COVID. I mean, I know we wanted to take a big team to European champs, but I was the only one that risked it to come over, and that's fair enough. And I know world champs, we wanted to take another team as well, but with the MIQ difficulties, I don't see that happening either.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I know a lot of people aren't willing to take the risk with MIQ, which, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
And just before I let you go, what's the sort of plan now? Obviously, you're in Florida. How long are you hanging around Florida before you have to head to Kazakhstan?
Yeah, so that's at the last week of November. So I will go from here to Kazakhstan, like in that second to last week. Yes, this is my amazing friend that has given me the room and like letting me live here. Yeah. So that'll be the last week in November, which is around the time of my ESTA running out also. And I know that MIQ is releasing some more rooms soon for that December period. So I'll be on there trying to get into that little virtual lobby that they've created. and get one of those spots, because obviously from there, once I'm over there, I just basically can only fly home. So that'll be the plan, is just another 2 weeks. I will try to go and watch Dan's fight next weekend in Vegas. And if I can make that tee up with some of the Kiwis, that'll be awesome as well. And after that, yeah, my camp will just be underway.
Sweet. Well, that's all the time I need to take off your hands today. Thank you very much for making the time. And for anyone watching who wants to support Michelle, she's selling shirts, and I'll drop a link in the description
Cool, yes.
below, and go and buy one.